Basically, organizations exist to accomplish certain missions, to get certain things done, to satisfy certain groups of people. And while doing that, they also want to stay afloat and also be sustainable. And so they have to generate some form of income. So basically, if we look at it from the viewpoint of a startup, we can say an organization wants to make some form of profit to reward those who actually started it and to at least be sustainable in some way. So let's look at it. How do we make profits? Of course, you make profits by offering value and generating income in that process and ensuring that the income you're generating in the process exceeds the cost you're incurring to generate that income. So let's look at it in two, that is, let's look at the two pillars here. So two pillars here basically is revenue and cost. So you offer value, people enjoy the value, they pay you for the value, and that payment can be considered as revenue, right? Now, but to generate or create the value that you produced, and maybe the cost of also getting information across or getting the value or product or service across to your target users or customers, you incurred costs in the process. So that's costs. Now, if your revenue exceeds costs, then you have a profit. If your revenue is below your cost, then you have a loss. If your revenue equals your costs, then you kind of like broke even. Now, the other things wrapped up around this, but I just want to break this down to the basics just to help drive home at something. So, what happens if your organization is there for a hit? How do you make that happen? How do you still make profit? How do you ensure that you're still sustainable in the process? For instance, COVID-19 has hit a number of companies, and many of them are trying to reduce costs by laying off some of their workers and doing a number of things. So let's look at it. Revenue costs. How do we increase the margins? We can increase the margins by reducing the costs to increase margins, or increase revenue to increase the margins, or do both. That is, increase revenue and reduce costs to accomplish that. But as simple as this sounds, there are complexities around this. For instance, one of the cheapest ways to reduce cost is to lay off people, which a number of organizations are doing. But that in itself, could have a number of repercussions because it depends on how you see people. People are actually assets, depending on how much investments have been made in them to contribute, because it's also the capacity to contribute. And truth be told that if you have the best of talents, the volume of their contribution far exceeds the amount that they're being paid in form of wages or salaries or whatever means by which they are being rewarded. And because people are assets, they have the time, they have the ideas, they have the networks, they have the connects, they have the knowledge, they have the basic things that organizations need to grow. I mean, if you have like two persons join you in building a startup, for instance, and they have the necessary skills, they have also the capacities and skills and talents, access to markets, and also time. I mean, that's additional 48 hours added to your venture to ensure that you achieve growth. So how do you deal with issues like this, particularly in the midst of COVID-19, for those who are trying to stay afloat? Let's look at it like this. If you are trying to increase your margins or at least stay afloat and you are having issues reducing costs, look at all the things that you incur in terms of costs. I think you should look at people last before you start when you are trying to reduce cost. Don't just look at laying off people because that's the quickest way you can save costs. What are the other things that you can cut off? Because in terms of incurring costs, we have the animates and the inanimates. People fall under the animates. In fact, people represent the animates. They are living, they have emotions, they have wills, they have the ability to make choices, they have families, they have needs, they have things that they do and they plan with, and they've entrusted their lives, their time, and the opportunities that they have to contribute in some way in your organization if you're an entrepreneur or you run a startup company. In this particular case or instance, first of all, start with the inanimates. What are the things that you've already established and that you incur costs on, which you can afford to do without for a certain period of time? while you keep the business afloat. So first thing you want to do is deal with the inanimates. They don't have husbands, they don't have wives, they don't have children, they don't pay school fees. There are things that they don't do, and they don't have emotions. If you lay them off, you can always buy them back. If you lay them off, you can always find replacements and use technology in some way. If you lay them off, you can always get them back, and they have no hurt feelings. After you've done that, and you find out that they still need to reduce costs, then you focus on people. I'm not saying don't lay off people if you have to ensure that the business stays afloat. But there are considerations to it because people have choices and they can make choices and they've kind of like bet their lives on it. And also you want to weigh the costs and the benefits. Is it more valuable to have them be in your organization, or it's more valuable for them to go find more opportunities for themselves? And while your organization also, finds more opportunities to advance things. Because don't forget, the question you want to ask is, are they assets or are they liabilities? Now, if you've exhausted all your options in in reducing costs by taking care of the inanimates, now you can focus on the animates, but with certain strategies. Maybe strategy is not the right word. Maybe with caution or with care, because you're dealing with people, and you should be compassionate. You should have respect for human dignity. You should also be concerned about, if you lay one person off, how many persons will you stop from going to school? How many persons will you stop from having breakfast or lunch? Many considerations need to come up here. So if I were you, what will I do if you are in such kind of situation? This is what I would do. I'll call the people together, give them enough time. As an entrepreneur, you should be able to see the going concern, at least to the tune of the future, and be able to say, oh, okay, if we don't achieve 1, 2, 3 consistently every month for the next 3 months, we're not be able to pay salaries of workers from month 4. So in such case, invite people together and be brutally honest with them. Tell them the honest truth. That's why it's an organization. And you explain to them and tell them, you know what, guys, for us to have you guys continually here, it's a great treasure. You've made so much contribution and we've built this organization over time because of your contribution. However, with the way things are going, we're not able to pay salaries or pay wages 3, 4, 5 months from now. And as a result of that, we need to make some very tough decisions. For instance, every month we need this particular amount to ensure that salaries are being made and operation costs are being covered. But for the past 2, 3 months, this particular amount has not been coming in, but we've just been finding ways to ensure that we pay salaries. And if we don't do anything quickly, we may have to make some tough decisions by month 4 from now. As a result of that, we need to find a way out. And we are letting you guys know ahead so that in case you have to make such tough decisions, then you can begin to look for opportunities that you can look out for, so that this won't be something that will get you off guard. We don't want you to get to a point where you're in shock and you'll have to starting from scratch. We want to let you know ahead, so you have at least 3 months ahead before we get to such point. The other option is this. If you can come up with an idea, a solution, a way out, given that we've expressed to you the concerns that we are facing as an organization, and you can help us, whether as an individual, as a team, or you guys can come up with something together that can help us generate this amount, then we can be sure that we are able to keep you guys here and we all can rock this boat together, which means we're giving you guys the options to go come up with a solution to the problem that we're facing, since we're all in this together. Expressing this like this to your people, I think, is a lot more valuable, and I think they'll appreciate you more as a leader. And you are giving them the chance also to be entrepreneurial in their approach, and also to see the problems differently. And so if anything happens or there is a hit and you make such tough decisions, one, they're already aware. 2, for those ones who would like to explore the opportunities, they are not caught off guard. 3, you are making your people also responsible putting themselves in your own shoes and also creating solutions and possibly also generating fortune and wealth in some way to generate what you need to ensure that the organization stays afloat and so you can still keep them as partners and co-workers in the organization. This is an approach you can consider. So in order to sustain your margins or ensure that your organization stays afloat, of course, you have to make profit to at least break even, and to ensure that there's a going concern, involve your people and treat them with dignity. That's crucial in building a great organization, knowing that people are assets, not liabilities. And so you should treat them that way. That's what human respect and dignity for humanity is all about.